Awesome. Hey, I'm here live at Highland Cafe, about to record this video for my second year in review for UHP. I'm using this microphone on my headphones because the microphone from my computer isn't going to pick this up, but I wanted to be here, so I am. Okay, so I'm going to start talking about my second year at UC. There's a lot of things that happened, and I didn't really realize it until I started thinking about what to talk about for this video. So fall semester, I was in classes, and I one of the classes was my second honors seminar, so that was my second honors experience. It was called Listen to the Music, and it was kind of a music appreciation course. If you want to learn more about it, there's another link on my honors portfolio about everything that I learned in that. But a lot of what I learned was like more of an extensive knowledge um, of the history of how music developed. So we started um, talking about Mozart in the classical period and going all the way through the development of music through Beethoven and all of his innovation, kind of, and how he was really, really influential and how everything led to the Romantic movement, and then moving on all the way through jazz and modern music. Um, and it was incredible. I had a lot of interest in music coming from high school because I was in band and choir and theater, and so I have like a decent amount of music background from that, and I'm in choir at UC. Um, but I think a lot of what I learned from that experience in that course was how culture was influenced by music and how music tied so well with movements in art. So like the romantic movements and the impressionist movements in both art and music were very tied, and I didn't never thought about that before, even though that makes sense because they both I did know before that they were like romantic and impressionist music and artistic movements, so I guess I never thought about the connection that they had. So I think that it kind of taught me a lot about human culture and the development, especially in Europe and America, through those years as music developed and had major influence to culture and from culture. And so moving on from that, in addition to that, um, long term, I think that has given me much more of an appreciation of classical music. And through the honors experience, we were required to attend a certain number of performances and analyze the performances. And I really, really enjoyed going to a lot of them. A lot of them ended up being at CCM, which was super nice and super convenient since it was already on campus. Um, and it was really cool to go experience the performances like the Aerial Quartet, which is this Israeli group of four musicians, a string quartet, and they are absolutely incredible. They're crazy talented, and also like make a show of playing the cello and violin, viola, bass. It's crazy and super impressive, and gave me a new appreciation of how classical music can still be really relevant today, and how after having gone through the class, I can like listen to a piece and say, "Oh, that's a romantic piece. I know that that's from the Paris Conservatoire," and just from listening to the style and like the form and tone of the pieces, and that's really cool. And through that, I also have like learned about um, like the tones of the different eras and how culture around the eras has influenced that, and thus like it creates a narrative in your mind when you listen to the music, which is the name of the honor seminar. Listen to the music. It kind of creates a narrative that plays out human nature and human like emotion through the music that I hadn't thought of before. I just kind of before was thinking, oh, this sounds nice, but now I can kind of see how it's like a development and shows how humans have emotion, and I don't know. Music shows and expresses human nature very well, and that's something that I appreciate a lot now. It hasn't changed very much. What I'm gonna like actively be doing going forward, I'm still gonna be in a major that is not a music major, and I'm still going to be in choir, and I think that that kind of allows me to appreciate further the music that we do in choir, the music that we make, and I know more of like composers' motives behind these pieces, and I think that that's kind of like gives it more of a emotional response that I'm really excited about, especially going into next year when I'm back in choir. Um, so I think that another really major thing to talk about, one of the questions for reflection was what is the most significant event or experience that challenged you this year. I think that that was definitely my co-op. So being in the engineering college, we're required to have the co-op rotations of five during our 5-year program at UC, and so I had my first co-op experience this spring semester of 2016. I was at a company called Silfex. Silfex is a high quality silicon product manufacturer in Eaton, Ohio, and um, it was really challenging and very difficult. Something that I learned through the process, even it began in the process of getting a co-op. Um, I think a lot of this year was me learning to trust in God and His planning and what He wants me, how He wants me to like lean on Him and trust Him. So even with co-op and getting the job, I was learning through that because I was applying to all these places and getting almost no interviews, and I didn't know why because I have an all right resume, and it was humbling through that, and I learned that that isn't enough to just get you a co-op, but it's a lot about networking, and it's a lot about performing well in interviews, which I don't think that I did very well at the initial stages. But I didn't get a co-op until like 2 or 3 weeks before the co-op was supposed to begin. Um, and so that was really humbling. But I was able to get a co-op via one of my friends who I met through my learning community last year in chemical engineering. She worked at Silfex before and was able to connect me with her supervisor, and I got a job through that, which was really awesome. And I'm just really thankful for how and her connection through that. But Silfex was challenging. Major reason was because it was in Eaton, Ohio, which is about an hour and 10 minutes north of here. It's north of Oxford. Um, and I learned a lot of discipline, honestly, this semester. A lot of, okay, I have to get up very early to get to work on time because I was still living here down in Cincinnati, right by campus. And so I would take the an hour and 10-minute drive to get there every day, all semester. So there was a lot of discipline in that. Um, but also, I did learn a lot about engineering and what chemical engineering looks like more through my experience at Silfex. I worked a lot with the um, deionized water system at Silfex, which was used. Okay, so the water and all of the processes that the silicon goes through um, has to be at a certain quality so that it doesn't damage or like make impurities on the silicon products that Silfex makes. And so it was really cool to be mentored by this man named Wes, who was a chemical engineer at Silfex, was my main mentor, and who was really a wealth of knowledge, a fountain of knowledge. It was really cool to kind of be mentored by him and to work alongside other co-ops that were from UC as well that I actually didn't know going into the semester, but it was really cool to be able to like collaborate with them, even though we had very different projects. All four of us were in very separate areas of SoFX, but our desks were together, so it's cool to be able to collaborate and learn together, as well as get just knowledge from the engineers there about what chemical engineering looks like and how um, it's not really what I thought it was. I learned a lot this year as having experience in the field that it's not as much chemistry as I thought coming into college. Um, which is interesting. I think chemistry really excites me, and chemical engineering is not as much of that as I thought that it was going to be. But it's a really cool and very um, important thing in companies. to make sure that processes happen and processes are constantly improved to save companies money. It's a lot more about money than I thought. It's really about business and being smart with that, and improving processes so that the companies can save money. So, for example, at Sofx, it was about saving money on for scrap parts, and yeah, it was very interesting. And I feel that I contributed pretty significantly. One of my projects that I worked on was under a different engineer. It wasn't Wes actually. It was an engineer named Jim, and we worked on reducing scrap essentially through his process, which was lapping, which is like basically sanding the silicon parts that we make. Um, and I think that the project I worked on with him is going to save Silvex thousands of dollars, like probably about $30,000 annually, which is crazy exciting. Um, It'll be cool to go back this fall, and see how that's progressed. But definitely, it was a very challenging semester. Um, Throughout that, something I kind of talked about in my last year in review video was Young Life, which is a ministry that I'm involved in on campus. Um, and this year in November, I got placed as a Young Life leader. And I talked about in the last video that I thought that I was going to be a leader at a high school, but I actually, God has a different plan than what I thought, and I became a Young Life leader at the University of Cincinnati. So my job, not job, my role as a volunteer Young Life leader is to reach out to other college students and kind of be a mentor to them and spiritually. Um, and so I lead Bible studies and events on campus. So it's kind of been really cool to grow in that and be humbled through that, um, and to grow with the other team, my other team members on that who are also doing the same ministry with me on campus. Um, it's been really cool. But through that and through co-op, it's been very difficult because, um, again, I said that I think the co-op semester taught me a lot of discipline, um, which I think is a very important tool going forward in my life. Um, but because I got placed as Young Life Leader and took on that role and volunteered for that role, it was something that isn't something that I was willing to step away from during the spring semester, so that's why I stayed near campus. I could have moved up to Oxford because my older sister went to Miami, and that's where a couple of the other co-ops lived while we were in Eaton. They lived in Oxford because it was only a 20-minute drive versus an hour and 10-minute drive from UC's campus. But it was really cool to see coming back every day from co-op, going to campus, and trying to do ministry well. It was humbling to see God work through me in that and develop my discipline. I think that was something that was very worthwhile and something that was very challenging to me. But it's grown my character, I believe. If there's one thing that I would change about this year, I would say I would. I wish that during semesters that I was in school, that I would. This might sound bad, but that I would focus less on my schoolwork, um, and be with people more that I care about. I have a lot of friends that I made last year that I haven't seen as much. Part of it is because we don't all live on campus anymore. We live off campus and have been a little bit separated that in that regard. But I wish that I would make more time to develop and maintain relationships with the people that I really care about instead of caring too much about school. I think I performed very well again this year in school, and I found a passion in organic chemistry, which is kind of funny. I took organic chemistry in the fall semester and I loved it. And I'm in OChem 2 right now and still love it, which is crazy because a lot of people are terrified by OChem. Um, and that was a bright light. And it's just a wide thing that people are afraid of. But I feel kind of the opposite. I really like it, and I think that's a passion that's developing. And I might go into research. I think that's something that I want to look into for this upcoming school year. I'm kind of bouncing around, but going forward, and reflecting on last year. But I think that that's something that has become an interest and that I want to pursue next year. Is I want to connect. I talked actually yesterday with my OChem instructor about maybe getting involved in research in an OChem related research, or connecting with professors in a research group to do that next year. I think that might be something I want to pursue as an honors experience for next year. Is something with organic chemistry because I think it's awesome. And that's like a new interest that has sparked this year, and I'm very excited about. So that's something that is a goal I think that I've set for next year is a research opportunity. Um, anyway, I think that I focused a lot on my schoolwork this year, and I did perform well. And I mean, I'm in school right now, um, and it's been pretty hard. But I wish that I would continue to maintain relationships a little bit better because I think that it's way more important than my grades. I think it's the relationships and my connections with other people that I care about a lot, that are going to be way more eternal than my grades that I get in college. Even though they're important and I need to learn, um, people are more important than that. So that's something that I think that I would change. If there's any advice that I'd like to give myself for the upcoming school year, I think um, I think that I should focus on what is actually important. Again, it's kind of the same idea what I just said. Um, yeah, focus on really what's really important, such as performing well in school, but also um, growing my skills as a leader, as I'm interested in doing maybe leadership next year. And I wanted to develop that so that I can continue to become a better young life leader and leader on campus and things that I've involved in, such as this year I got involved in ambassadors for the College of Engineering and Applied Science as well as honors. And so I think that I want to develop my leadership skills next year, for being a leader for Young Life Honors and the College of Engineering. um, so I think that's something that I can focus on, but also just knowing that what's really important is relationships that I have with friends, um, and just growing and maintaining those. Um, yeah, I think that thoughts about who I am and what do I want to change or evolve for next year, for the next steps. I think I've learned a lot about um, my identity in knowing that my schoolwork is not the ultimate, but that like my identity is in Christ. I've grown a lot through my church, getting involved in a small group through that, but also being around people in Young Life, and being like really encouraged by people who are on my team as I am a leader at college now. Um, I've learned a lot about who God says I am, but also about who I like have proven what I've proven to believe about myself through the way that I do focus a lot on my schoolwork. And I think that I want to continue to remind myself of what's really important, going forward and pursuing people better, but also things that interest me, such as like the newfound interest that I have in organic chemistry. I think that this is kind of a big thing that I'm kind of interested to see where we'll be next year with this, but something that is maybe going to change for next year. Since I hadn't even talked about this fall, I also was finally able to develop the passion that I have in French. As last year I was in the honors seminar, Contemporary Paris, and through that finally officially declared French as a minor. I began my classes. I was in two French classes this fall that went incredibly, and I was able to maintain relationships with Professor Lorenz, whom I talked about last year in my year interview as well. Um, I want to continue working toward developing that relationship, and I think that I might um, be switching majors, which is scary to say, but um, I think that for next year, something that might be happening is switching to being a French and chemistry major from chemical engineering. So that's something that I kind of just declared on this video, but hasn't happened yet. So we'll see where we are. But I think those are two incredible passions that I have. And I sent through this year learning a lot about what chemical engineering really is, seeing that maybe that's not what I want to do, but these are two passions that I have. Um, and I think it's really important for me to follow those passions and develop them and see how I can um, use those to develop myself and continue to be a global citizen and improve the world, um, and see where it takes me and see what God's plan is. So I think that a lot of what I learned this year was trusting in God's plan, and being patient with Him, but learning more about what I am finding is really important in my life, and trying to pursue those better for next year. So I think that's something that's really exciting. Um, Along with that, I want to continue pursuing music, which was my honor seminar this year, and continuing to be involved in UC courses and continuing to attend fun performances in Cincinnati in my community at CCM. Um, and yeah, so I think that that's my year in review. Thanks so much for listening. It's been kind of weird that I'm already 2 years into my experience as a Bearcat, but I have probably 3 years left still. So I'm excited for three more of these videos and for seeing how God grows me and how I'm able to just grow as a student, as an honors student, and as a person over the next few years. Thanks for listening. Have a great summer and see you next year. Bye.